Tower Road in Mundelein off of Allenson Road. Their phone number is 847-223-0500 and their website is www.advantagematerialhandling.com.
Jeff Dorset.
There has never been a decade quite like the 70s. From the start it was prog rock, it graduated to glam and then on to disco and ended with new wave and punk. From Led Zeppelin to the Sweet, from the Bee Gees to the Ramones, it's the one, the only Supersonic 70s with me, Jeff Dorset, right here every Tuesday at 2 p.m. on WRLR 98.3.
My name is Bob Monahan, and on every other Thursday night from 7 to 8 p.m., I'll be doing a show called Everyday Law. On Everyday Law, we'll aim to take the mystery out of the law and answer a variety of questions, like, what if a lawyer won't take my case because not enough money's involved? Do I need a will, and what happens if I don't have one? What can the police actually do at a traffic stop, and what are my rights? I'll be bringing on guests from different legal fields to answer and address your questions on Everyday Law. Please listen for me on every other Thursday night from 7 to 8 p.m.
Listen to the David Mierswa Show, the cutting-edge talk show about legal, political, and current issues on every Sunday from 12 to 1 p.m. Practicing in both Wisconsin and Illinois, David Mierswa is a leading trial attorney, bringing nearly 2 decades of business law, family law, personal injury, and estate planning experience to the show. The David Mierswa Show, about the people, for the people, and bringing justice to the people. On every Sunday from 12 to 1 p.m. on WRLR 98.3, the voice of Lake County.
Brighten up your lunch hour with Yesterday Once More with Stan Koenig. Stan plays all your classic favorites from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Simpler times when music was music. These are the songs you fell in love to, the music that inspired you, and most importantly, the songs that make you smile. So turn back the clock by tuning in to Yesterday Once More every Friday from 9 a.m. till noon, right here on 98.3 FM WRLR.
Join me, Tyler Lang, Monday nights at 6 for Garage Noise, your source for independent and underground rock and roll from the 1960s until today. You'll hear music from bands like The Sounds, The Clash, The White Mystery, from reverb-drenched surf to sneering 70s punk, from screaming psychedelic noise to neoclassic garage rock. That's Garage Noise, Monday nights at 6, here on 98.3 WRLR.
You have all heard the saying, be prepared in case of emergencies. But do you really understand what that means? Tune into our show, CERT Presents, the last Thursday of every month, 8 p.m. on WRLR Radio 98.3. We will be providing valuable information on what to do in case of an emergency situation and how to prepare properly beforehand. We'll be interviewing a local guest on the show with expertise in related areas and will answer some of the listeners' questions. Stay tuned, be ready, and be prepared.
May I be the first to say good afternoon. It's 12 o'clock. You're listening to 98.3 FM, WRLR LP, Round Lake Heights, Illinois.
Welcome to the David Mierswa Show, the cutting-edge talk show about legal, political, and current issues. Practicing in both Wisconsin and Illinois, David Mierswa is a leading trial attorney, bringing nearly 2 decades of business law, family law, personal injury, and estate planning experience to you. The David Mierswa Show, about the people, for the people, and bringing justice to the people. The David Mierswa Show, its guests, agents, and WRLR are not rendering any legal advice. All listeners are encouraged to seek legal advice from properly licensed and qualified professionals. Welcome to the David Mierswa Show. I hope everyone is having a great Sunday. It is 12 noon. Once again, I can't believe this week just flew by. I was just up in Wisconsin and I spent 3-4 days with my 84-year-old mother, and a shout out to my mom. And really, that's what it's all about, folks. It is in January 2016. We are starting off the new year. I have a really exciting show here today. I'm going to be reviewing 2015. I've been on the air now for 6 months, if you can believe it. 6 months. And I am excited to be on the air for 2016 as to what's going to be happening with politics and social issues and so forth. If you missed my intro, this show is about the people, for the people and bringing justice to the people. I've been a lawyer for almost 20 years, folks. I've seen a lot of stuff inside the courtroom and outside the courtroom. I've dealt with many, many situations, legally and socially. And I got to tell you, one of the reasons for me starting this radio show is that I've been listening to all the other media that's out there, and I've had enough. I've had enough. They don't cover the stories that you and I are talking about. They don't want to cover them, or they cover them for 2 minutes. Then they go on to their own little agenda, that to what they're trying to promote. Fox News is on the right, MSNBC is on the left, and where are we? We're stuck in the middle between all this media war going on. So I started this radio show to bring it to you in your face with cutting edge topics that we are talking about behind closed doors and not so much in the public. And that's where this radio show is different from every other radio show. Also, this show is live. A lot of the other shows, that the so-called talk shows, are pre-recorded canned commercials for whatever products that they're selling. Not this show. This show is live. That's the difference between this show and a lot of the other shows out there. So, you don't know what I'm going to be saying. You don't know, so this is all spontaneous, which adds for a really great show. So I got to say, 2015 was a fantastic year. I had a great time being on the radio. I had a great time getting the show off the ground. Every week there are more and more listeners tuning into my show. It must be resonating with the listeners out there. The topics that I covered have ranged all the way from civil rights to LGBT. I've covered Second Amendment, First Amendment. I've covered so many topics out there. The death penalty. I've covered gun rights, Second Amendment. I've covered so many topics out there. I've covered immigration. I had a friend of mine on, Ricardo, who talked about his 6-day journey coming across the desert. It sounded like a biblical story, but it's all true. He talked about crossing the desert for 6 days just to make it to America. Who would do that? Well, let me tell you. A person would cross a desert for 6 days to make it to America, to capture the American dream and the freedoms that we are afforded. And a lot of these politicians out there are trying to take away our freedoms and our voices. Hence why I started my radio show. I call it the way I see it. Some people don't like my opinion. Too bad, too sad. I always give this offer out there. Anyone who wants to come in my radio show and debate with me, we will sit down and we have a civilized debate. Not some of this other stuff that's going out there where they're trying to force people into believing their opinion. That doesn't work on this radio show. If you got something intelligent to say, you want to come on my show, I'm not afraid of anyone, anywhere, anytime. Come on my show. We'll have an organized topic, and then we will debate live on the show, which I have many times. All of my previous shows in 2015 are on my website, law540.com, law540.com, law540.com. So all my shows get uploaded within 24 hours of broadcasting, so you can listen to them. What are some of my other shows? I had a gentleman on here, excuse me, Dan Jakes. Dan Jakes was a veteran. He talked about his plight. He was part of a bombing in Germany. He survived a terrorist bombing in Germany back in the 70s. And he talks about the terrorist movement. Everyone thinks, oh, terrorism just started 10, 15 years ago. It goes all the way back through time. But Dan Jakes talked about being injured. He talked about his plight and his fight that started after he got out of the military. He was trying to get military benefits, and the VA denied him. And he almost died from a lack of benefits and care by our VA. That came to you live. And I can't tell you, it was moving. It was so moving. I put it up on my website. That was Daniel Jakes. So look for his name. He actually had to get a lawyer. He had to bring a lawyer down to the VA to get his benefits. What the heck has this country come to when a veteran needs to get a lawyer just to get his everyday benefits that are due to him? That's what this country has become. I'm not afraid of the fight anymore. I was standing on the sideline for many years. I was waiting for a person to stand up, to start entering their voice, and start speaking up, to start protecting our rights more. And every day I kept waiting for that person to stand up, to shout out, to say, enough is enough. I've had enough. I've had enough of all this. Who is going to stand up to protect our rights? And I kept looking to the left. I kept looking to the right. I kept looking for many years for that person who was going to stand up and reflect the values that I believe in. And there was no one. These politicians out in Washington, they get out there, they become part of the crony capitalism out in Washington, D.C. They forget about you and I, the veterans, the police officers out there, the firemen out there, the fire people out there, the fire women out there. All of the people of America, all our families are all forgotten about. These politicians go out and collect all their money, and they forgot about middle America. They forgot about the Midwest. They forgot about people like you and I that have had enough. I've had enough of all of their doing. And further yet, they're not doing. The overspending. Everything that's been going on is I've had enough. So I started fighting back. Whenever I could, when I'm out in public, I start to debate all these topics. And I got to tell you, me starting this radio show, it's just the beginning. This is just the beginning for me. I have woken up. I have now stood up. And I'm not going to stand down anymore. These shows are going to get more intense. I got even more passion. I got the energy of 300 people. I've been working out every day. I've been doing P90X3. I've lost over 20 pounds. I am full of energy. No one is going to make me stand down anymore. My voice is going to be heard across America. That is my goal for 2016. That my voice and your voice is going to be heard across America. We are no longer going to sit down. We are going to stand up. That's what this show is about. This show is about bringing diverse opinions and educating people and debating such topics here. You may not agree with a lot of the things that I are opinionated on, but I always welcome another point of view. As Paul Harvey used to say when he was on every day at 12 noon, Monday through Friday, it's time for the other side of the story. I always look at both sides of the coin. Always. I'm not afraid to look anyone in the face and talk about these topics that so many people are afraid to mention. Last year on the radio show, I talked about the IRS coming after conservative groups, which in itself is just, incomprehensible. In Lewis Lerner coming, and it's not the fact that it was a conservative group, because a lot of people on the left say, oh, you're just trying to protect the left or the right. That's not true. What if it was you and your family that got attacked by the IRS for no just cause? I brought you that show. Make sure you go to my website, Law 540. It's on there. Also, I talked about John Doe investigations. All the listeners are out there from Illinois are, what the heck are John Doe investigations? John Doe investigations are secretive investigations allowed by district attorneys in the state of Wisconsin to investigate political and social investigations that are held in secret. So they busted into people's homes at 3, 4 in the morning trying to come after Governor Walker. Nothing ever came of it. In the middle of the night, they harassed American citizens. Unbelievable. If you don't think it's true, Google it. Google it, folks. This stuff does exist. All you people from Illinois, you know I live in Illinois. I was born and raised in Wisconsin. And I'm telling you, if it can happen in Wisconsin, it can happen here. And if it can happen in Wisconsin in the middle of the night, these kids were just trying to sleep. And they kicked in their door at 3 a.m. in the morning with no fair warning. And then they told these people, you don't have a right to talk about this in public. I say, heck no. You have a right to voice whatever you want. If anyone is ever a victim of any of what I consider this to be a crime, you get a hold of me. I know attorneys in Wisconsin, and we will fight this. I will bring this on the air as well. That's one of the other topics that happened in 2015. John Doe investigations in Wisconsin. That's on my website, law540.com. So, as you can see, I am fired up. It is the beginning of 2016. And today, with my show, I'm going to be reviewing a lot of my old audio clips. I'm going to be reviewing them. I got some good, funny stuff I'm going to be playing today. I got kind of a more serious note today because I'm bringing to you today a 2-hour show. A 2-hour show to kick off the year of 2016. The year of 2016 is no longer the year of all you friends and listeners sitting down. 2016 is going to be the year that you and I and my friends on the radio are now standing up. We're going to stand up and we're going to have our voices heard. I hope you are with me. And I hope you listeners are becoming my friends in my radio family. Every week this radio show is growing. So I hope you are going to stay tuned into me. 2-hour show today. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about WRLR. It's a family-friendly radio station. It is a non-for-profit. All the people that work at this radio station are volunteering their time. I want to give a big thank you and a shout out to all of the people behind the scenes at WRLR that allow me to bring you my radio show, which also is going to be videotaped. It will be going up on YouTube. That's a new change for 2016. I'm also going to be streaming online later on this year. So this show is going to continue to grow. So again, this is a family-friendly radio show. If you got kids, I encourage you to have your kids listen to this show. There is nowhere else your kids are going to get this education. You think your kids are going to get this education over at the local school that's controlled by this Common Core agenda? I don't think so. This Common Sense radio show is going to bring you topics that these teachers are afraid of. These teachers are afraid of to talk about things because they'll be fired. I've been a lawyer for almost 20 years. I'm not afraid to take on anyone, anywhere, anytime. As a trial lawyer, I've taken on some of the biggest insurance companies, some of the biggest corporations. I've taken on some of the biggest law firms, and I've won most of my cases. I've gotten great settlements. And that's the reason why I've won, because I fight. I'm not afraid to go to trial. I'm not afraid to voice my opinion. I'm not afraid to voice my opinion in court or out of court. So that's also what I bring to this show, is 20 years of legal experience. There's no other radio show like this around. 20 years of in-your-face, legal, transactional, and trial experience. No other radio show out there like this. Okay, so that is the beginning of my show. I know it was a little bit of a long intro, but I got to tell you, I got a lot to say. And I gotta laugh a little bit. My friends made a comment last night. We went out, had a great dinner. So all my friends that came out last night, thank you for such a good time. Life is all about family and friends, working hard and taking care of your family. That's what it's all about, folks. It's not how many boats that you can accumulate. It's not about how many cars you can accumulate. It's about spending time with quality people and helping other people. Not a handout, but a hand up. That's what this radio show is about. Helping people with a hand up. I'm not about to give a handout. Those people that want a hand up, you help them. So I want to give a couple shout outs here. The beginning of my radio show, I always give shout outs to causes that I believe in. One of the biggest ones that I believe in are animal rescue and animal adoption. My first shout out here is to Reach Rescue. It's a non-for-profit located in Mundelein. They are a not-for-profit, non-kill animal shelter. The cool thing about them is they have an adoption center right next door to a resale shop. I had some friends that furnished a whole new apartment. Better yet, if you have kids, you can stop down there. They got dogs that you can adopt. They got cats that you can adopt. It's pretty cool. As you walk into the resale shop, they have 3 cats that greet you. They are part of that store. So that is Reach Rescue, located in Mundelein. So Google them, Reach Rescue. Also, a shout out to Kay's Animal Shelter in Arlington Heights. That's Kay's Animal Shelter in Arlington Heights, if you live around that area. Also, I've done a lot of donations and a lot of good work with Save a Pet out of Grays Lake. That's Save a Pet out of Grays Lake. Once again, they are a non-for-profit. You can donate in there. They are located on Fairfield Road. So if you got kids, stop over there. Do not buy from a breeder. Buy an animal. You're not buying it, but you're paying a donation to pay for the costs and help that shelter go forward. So that's my shout outs today is Reach Rescue in Mundelein, Kay's Animal Shelter in Arlington Heights, then Save a Pet out of Grays Lake. So this show is just so packed. I got a 2-hour show and I am so fired up to bring you all of these audio clips, and it is always a privilege of mine. I never take it for granted that I'm on the radio. There are a lot of TV personalities and a lot of radio stars out there. They forget the roots where they come from. I never do. So all you listeners out there and all your friends that are becoming my friends and my radio family, I thank you for listening. One thing that you can do for 2016, I'm on Facebook. Become a friend with me on Facebook and then share my radio show so this show can grow. If you like it, start turning other people on to the radio show. I have so many audio clips here that I want to play for you. And there's no way I'm going to fill them all in 1 hour, but one of the biggest things that happened around northern Illinois was this Fox Lake officer. It was unbelievable. This Fox Lake officer, Lieutenant Glinowitz, allegedly tried to entrap 3 people and he committed suicide. And before we knew any of that, Fox Lake Police, Grays Lake Police, Lake County Sheriffs, all were on the biggest alert I have ever seen in northern Illinois history. In the last 50 years, I've never seen anything like that. And he called in a gunshot and then he shot himself and committed suicide. I had friends of mine, I have very good friends of mine that have kids on or around Fox Lake. And their kids had to be locked down in the school, and then they couldn't go to school for a couple of days. They basically locked down all of Fox Lake and huge parts of Round Lake, which was unbelievable. And then the coroner's office started saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm not ruling out suicide. And all this time went by, and so this officer committed suicide, after this investigation. So my first audio is going to be about Officer Glinowitz's wife and what she has to say before it came out that he committed suicide.
One week after her husband's death, the coroner announced a shocker.
We have to consider a suicide, or we have to consider a accident.
I wholeheartedly believe he was murdered.
And to say otherwise?
It's disrespectful, hurtful, irresponsible.
When the coroner said maybe it's a suicide, how did you take that?
There was a lot of anger.
Mel is still furious, and she claims someone actually present at the autopsy told her, this is no suicide.
The coroner is an elected person. He didn't perform the autopsy. The one that performed the autopsy came and stood on my deck and told me everything.
Everything, including that her husband was killed by a single devastating gunshot wound to the torso, even though he was wearing a bulletproof vest. Mel was also told the vest stopped one bullet, but another bullet entered at a downward angle, and that was the fatal shot.
There were 2 shots. Somebody that is going to kill themselves is not going to shoot themselves twice. My husband was a firearms instructor. He was a sniper.
And this is one thing Mel wants everyone to know. Her husband was a man who had every reason to live.
There were things that were happening in our life that people who are going to commit suicide would never do. He'd already applied for chief's jobs in other towns. He was retiring out. We were planning vacations. He lived for these things.
So that was the wife of Glinowitz when it really wasn't across the news yet that he, in fact, committed suicide. And he shot himself twice. And I guess the facts are that he shot himself in the lower stomach and then, toward the torso and then towards the top, underneath his vest. So, and the sad thing is that, he allegedly took money from a young police explorers group. And the amount of money was so low. It's like tens of thousands of dollars or something, allegedly. And he threw away his life based on that. And, some of the other facts that came out was that, and this is all allegedly, so, these facts, they are allegedly what happened. So I want to make sure I give that disclosure about that. But Glinowitz had supposedly a girlfriend, and the girlfriend ended up marrying the son and then collecting benefits, which is, unbelievable. But again, this is all alleged. So, you gotta, being on the radio, you gotta be very careful as to what you say is factual and what is alleged. So I try to be very, very careful on those points. But about 3 or 4 days after this investigation started, the chief of police in Fox Lake resigned. So let's hear an audio clip on that.
Fox Lake Police Chief Michael Bean announced he is retiring less than a week after he was put on paid administrative leave during a village investigation into an altercation between an officer and a man who was arrested last year, according to a news release from the village. According to the statement, Bean, 55, told the village board he had decided to retire this month. He will step down at the end of the week but will continue cooperating with the investigation, village officials said. Fox Lake Village Administrator Ann Marin said the village began investigating a December 2014 altercation between a 36-year-old man arrested for public intoxication and a Fox Lake police officer this month. The officer, who the village has not named, was also put on paid administrative leave last week. The officer was disciplined at the time, but the village has concerns with respect to how the incident was investigated, when it was investigated, and how decisions regarding findings and discipline were reached, Marin said in a statement last week. Village officials said they will immediately begin a national search for candidates to replace Bean. As of last week, an interim chief had not been named, but Lieutenant Mark Schindler was leading the department, Marin said. We are grateful for Chief Bean's commitment to the people of Fox Lake and to the officers who served under his command these last 9 years, Fox Lake Mayor Donnie Schmidt said in the news release. Bean worked for the Fox Lake Police Department for 33 years and was named chief in 2006.
So shortly after the scandal broke about Officer Glinowitz committing suicide, that the chief of police retired. And another alleged fact that came out was that Glinowitz tried to hire a hitman to take out the comptroller who was investigating him. You know, unbelievable. Tried to put out a hit on a local politician who was going to uncover what was going on, his stealing. I do know at this point the district attorney is still investigating the wife and the family. I haven't had any other updates on that. They've been kind of mum about that. Let's listen to another audio clip as to the release of the information, him committing suicide.
Shock here in Fox Lake is replaced by disappointment and cynicism.
This is the first time as a law enforcement officer in my career that I felt ashamed by the acts of another police officer.
Lead investigator Chief George Falenko says because the scene was so expertly staged, it was only in the last few weeks with the recovery of Glinowitz's deleted emails and bank records that it became clear Glinowitz had killed himself, convinced an audit would expose his embezzlement of thousands of dollars from the Police Explorer post to pay his mortgage, travel, and even access adult websites. Village Administrator Ann Marin sums it up.
The community is the real victim here.
All along, what was the